Alright, what's going on, everyone? We are on the 5070 Ti today. Got it paired with the 14700K. We're checking this game out at 4K resolution. So we did a 9070 XT video a couple days ago, and these are similarly priced. So I wanted to do the 5070 Ti version in a similar way, so you can maybe look at that video too and compare them, but I'll link that right up there if you want to check that out as well. But yeah, right here we're on low settings, completely native, no upscaling. We are rocking about 52 milliseconds on our PCL with about 55 FPS. So we already kind of see we're going to have to use some upscaling if we want to maintain that nice 60 FPS experience. However, this is not a game that you necessarily have to have 60 all of the time. I just want to say that, get that out of the way, because everything does look pretty good even at 50 FPS. It's not a fast-paced game at all. This is actually running quite well. The frame time graph is the big thing for slower-paced titles like this. If that frame time graph is nice and flat and you've got about 50 FPS, that's a good experience on a game like this. I want to preface that by saying on a game like this. Asterisks and very important. But yeah, we're just going to keep going and assume that 60 is kind of where everyone wants to be anyway. So we're going to come down here and just turn on some of that DLSS upscaling. So we're going to use a quality upscale, leave everything else on low. I'm just using the presets built into the game. This is, of course, no ray tracing and no frame generation. We're at 80 FPS. And our PCL dropped down about 34 milliseconds in this area. So again, very nice performing title whenever you use that DLSS upscaling. And since you're on 4K, it's perfectly normal and perfectly acceptable to go all the way up to performance if you need to, which I suspect we'll probably have to do that, especially whenever ray tracing gets involved. There are some small effects in this title that ray tracing, unfortunately, can't turn it off. So it is kind of a heavy hitter for most cards. So we're just taking a look at this, not as a comparison to the 9070 XT necessarily, but you know, if you are shopping around for a card in this price range, you know, I'm going to link that up there again, you know, if I haven't already, and I'll drop it down in the description. So a nice 2 videos you could watch to kind of, you know, see how it performs in a title like this with heavy ray tracing. That's kind of why I wanted to do this today. But yeah, let's just keep on going and go on up to that very next level. So we're going to come down here and just kick it over to medium. So we're going to kick it over to medium. That does the following right here. You know, kind of increases some things, but for the most part, it's just, you know, what you would expect medium to do. Texture resolution does go up. That's going to be one of the main things, but it leaves ray tracing out of it right now. So let's just keep on going through it. All right, so we are at 72 FPS, so we got a little bit of a hit. This game, of course, is a very, very demanding title. It always has been, even with a couple years of age. It's still, it can still microwave a GPU, no problem. So yeah, let's just keep on running through it. We're about 83, 81 FPS. Again, anything on this title above 50 with a flat frame time graph is fine. I want to preface all that by saying, you know, it depends on the type of game. It really does, you know, come into a big, it comes into a big factor there whenever you're talking about the type of game and the FPS you're looking for. All right, so yeah, let's just keep on going. 78 right there. So let's jump into the options again and come down here, and we can go on up to high. We have plenty of frames to do so. All right, so we are at 71, 70. So this is high with no major upscaling. This is just quality. Again, on 4K, going up to quality is almost identical to native. I mean, you'd be very hard-pressed to tell the difference, especially whenever you kick a little sharpening in there. But yeah, there's, you know, 79 or 69, 70 FPS. This is more than plenty. All right, so we can definitely keep going. No need to do any more upscaling at the moment. So let's just keep going through our settings here. So we can see here that custom would be the next thing. So what I want to do is kind of create a fake ultra. So I'm just going to come in here and turn everything that's available up to high. So this is the highest setting without any ray tracing. So as you can see here, we got, you know, this is a big factor too. It makes it look a lot more believable, is the ground scatter, terrain quality. You know, you've got your screen space, ambient occlusion. That's going to be replaced in a little while by ray tracing, but for right now, this is kind of like the little bit older tech. But right here, we are looking really good. Texture resolution's all the way maxed out. So let's jump into it and see what that does for us here. So that drops us down to under 50 at times. We're still around 50. Now, does this feel good? It feels fine. You know, you're over 50 most of the time, in between 50 and 60. Again, you know, if this was choppy or if it had frame time issues, this would be miserable. I wouldn't like to play it that way. But when you are around 50 on a slower paced title like this, of course, you know, with a flat frame time graph, no complaints from me. I mean, it just, you don't need to have some ridiculously high frame rate for a game this slow. All right, so important factor to remember as I go through all this. So what I want to do is just start to introduce some of that balanced upscaling. That's going to get us up a little bit, and that will make room for whenever we do kick on the ray tracing. So what I want to do is come in here and go to balanced and see what that does. So everything was left the exact same. We're on our fake ultra right now, and this gives us 69, 70 FPS here on a balanced upscale. And we still have performance to go to. Ultra performance starts to look a little bad on just about any game, but that gives us a really nice PCL as well right here. So we're completely ultra, you know, our fake ultra, and we have 49 milliseconds of PCL. So that's, you know, around 50 is about where I like to be. Anything under 50 is, I consider, really good. But between 50 and 80, especially on a game with like a controller type approach, you know, that's fine. Now, if you are on a mouse and keyboard, I like to be around 50 personally. But again, all this stuff is, you know, it's kind of up to what you accept. I mean, you know, I can accept about 80 milliseconds on a controller. Past that, it starts to feel a little bit sloppy. But right here, we're looking good. We're about 65 FPS with a PCL of 44 milliseconds. So let's kick on ray tracing. Now, this is going to probably dip us down pretty hardcore. Ray tracing is no joke on this title. I'm going to turn this film grain off because it looks kind of bad. But yeah, let's just keep on going through here and go to that ray tracing preset. So the preset here will start to affect things down here. So just kind of keep in mind that this preset, it modifies things down here as well when it comes to path tracing. So I'm just going to run through the presets for this experiment we're doing here. So this is low ray tracing with everything set to our ultra setting, and that gives us 45, 46 FPS. Frame time graph, let it get itself sorted after that menu, but it's still looking really, really flat. Now I can kind of feel a little bit like, you know, I can kind of tell 41's a bit low, feels a little bit, little choppy frame rate, but you know, again, the frame time is even, so that's good. That's a good sign. Our PCL is a little high, so I'm going to kick it over to performance and see if we can get that PCL down and the frame rate back up. And hopefully that'll give us enough room for whenever we do want to go up a little bit more on our ray tracing. So what I want to do here is just kick it up to performance. Again, performance is nice it's very nice on 4K. Still looks really good. So that gives us 51 FPS with a PCL of 61. So that gets us right at 60 FPS, just about, not quite. So right here, what I would like to do is probably introduce some frame generation. We're probably going to have to use everything at our disposal when it comes to the DLSS suite of tools. But you know, for a game like this, I think that's acceptable to have a base frame rate of 52, 50-ish FPS. It's going to smooth out pretty well once we introduce some of that frame generation. So what I want to do is just kind of go through all of the different levels first of the ray tracing just to see how bad it can kind of get, and then we'll see what we need to do as far as getting things back under control with some frame generation. All right, so here we are. This is 39 FPS here, 80, about 75 milliseconds on our PCL, so not incredible. Could be a lot better. So we can definitely start to see the limits of this card when it comes to particularly ray tracing, but you know, we'll have to use that frame generation and hopefully have a PCL that's at least under 80 depending on how far up the frame generation ladder you want to go, it can start to affect your response time. So we're going to have to go probably hand in hand with ray tracing and our frame generation to get this to a nice acceptable level. Not that this is unacceptable, it's just not how I would personally want to play it. The frame rate's a little low. Again, I can kind of start to tell around 40 that we need to do some adjustments. So let's come into here and go into options and see just how bad it can get. Let's go all the way down to our ray tracing preset. Go to high here, so it really starts to lift your indirect lighting, your path tracing. So let's come in here and see what all that does for us. So let's see, 30s, 38. Yeah, our PCL is pretty high. I mean, it's still under 80, so it's still acceptable on a controller. It's around 77, 76. But, you know, the frame pacing itself is still okay. We're at 43 right here. Let's just keep on rolling through it. I'm really hopeful that whenever we do turn on frame generation, it's not going to skyrocket our PCL, because that would be the other thing we would have to kind of contend with, and we would contend with that probably by reducing settings. Unfortunately, that would just be what you'd have to do unless you wanted to go to ultra performance. All right, so yeah, we're at 40 FPS here. Let's go in here and just see what the very next level can do. We're kind of torturing the card here at this point, so let's just see ray tracing preset. Let's go all the way up to ultra. All right, so it's made its adjustments. It probably had to do a lot of thinking to go to ultra. So ultra ray tracing, ultra path tracing, transparencies on ultra. So everything is set to the absolute maximum it can possibly go. And let's just see how terrible this runs. Actually, it's not too bad. I mean, 39, 40 FPS here. PCL's hanging around 75 milliseconds, so it didn't really affect that too terribly much. So there's not a huge performance difference, it looks like, between high and ultra. You can come in here and see that, you know, depending on where I'm at, it does tend to feel like much slower than other areas. So 35, 34, 33, you know, we got some NPCs over here, so that kind of explains a little bit of that. We got a lot of reflections in this water. So this is a pretty hard little area to kind of for it to get through. So let's turn on some frame generation. Our PCL is at 90 milliseconds. So that's a little higher than what I would want. If I do come in here and turn on frame generation, it will probably go higher. So let's just see if we can do a little magic here. So let's come in here. Everything's completely maxed out. And after we get through all this, I'm going to probably go in and do like a optimized kind of, not really optimized, but how I would play it. Just my own personal thought process for my play style. So, all right, let's see. We've got the VRAM to do it. Let's see if it can hang on. All right, so that gets us 64, about 60 FPS here. Completely maxed out on 2x frame gen. Now with the frame gen, we are looking a little high on our PCL. We're at 99 milliseconds. If you are on a mouse, it's not like horrible, but you know, you would be able to get used to it. I'll put it that way. But on a controller, just the slow paced nature of this title, it's fine. I would probably be okay with this. You know, looking at numbers all day and studying these kind of things versus just feeling it out can be completely different perspectives. You know, if I wasn't staring at a panel and staring at the PCL response time, I would probably assume that this is fine. You know, probably say like, oh, you know, this game isn't like some super fast competitive shooter, so I would probably be fine with this, honestly. Let's just go up to the very next level of frame gen and see what we can expect there. So this is just 3x. So this gives us well over 100 FPS, still 89, 80 milliseconds. So it's over 80 milliseconds, but it's not over 80 milliseconds by like a ton. You know, I mean, 20 milliseconds is starting to feel a little high to me, but that's just the nature of that frame generation coming in. So you might be able to just put up with it if you want to run everything completely, totally maxed out. But, you know, you could do a little bit of setting adjustments and probably be fine. So I'm going to go up to 4x and just kind of close out that section of it as far as frame generation goes. Then we'll look at more of a realistic setting. This is just kind of for everyone to absorb the numbers, get the knowledge, and make your own determination of, if this card would, satisfy your needs or not. All right, so yeah, we are looking at 86 milliseconds. All right, kind of jumped up a little bit down there, but yeah, the PCL really does jump around quite a bit, in accordance with that FPS over there. Of course, it's going to move around a little bit, but VRAM wise, we're looking good, and that's largely due to running it in performance DLSS. It gives your VRAM a break. All right, so 126, 123 FPS here. So what if we come into here and just go through some settings that might be a little bit more realistic? I'm going to turn off the frame gen. I am going to leave it on performance because it looks good and gives us plenty of headroom. I'm going to go back to that high preset though. So this is just the high preset, not the fake ultra preset that we did earlier. And then we are going to turn on the low ray tracing preset. So that leaves path tracing off, but it does bring in a little bit more stuff here. So basically it turns on DLSS ray reconstruction and direct lighting. So low does a little bit without going too hard in the paint on it. Medium, goes up a little bit, starts to introduce some path tracing. So low is really the high version of ray tracing. So let's see what that does. So this is just the high setting that comes out of the box with low ray tracing, which again kind of maxes out the ray tracing aspects of things without introducing path tracing. So right here we're at 54 FPS, and this would be perfectly acceptable to do like a 2x frame gen from and have a pretty good experience. I think you lose the path tracing, but you still have some really nice lighting in the title. So not a bad idea to try this either. So let's go up to that very next level and see what just a little bit of path tracing does for us. Could not think of the word. So right here, it just kind of bumps that up. Transparency goes to high. So you do have some adjustments, granular adjustments you can make in here. So you could turn the path tracing completely off. And as you can see over here, it does make a lot of difference. But off goes back to that, traditional lighting, and the reflections start to look a little bit more realistic. So let's just keep it as medium. This is kind of where we were. So medium with everything on the regular high preset. Let's just keep going through it here. So that gives us about 45, 46 FPS. And our PCL goes up to 63 milliseconds. Again, all of these that are around 40 to 50 FPS, I think would be fine to frame generate off of, considering the slow-paced nature of this game. So, if you think about it like that, I always consider the type of game before I start to think about the performance that I would like to get from it. That is probably the heaviest factor in what I look for in performance, is the type of game that I'm playing. Is it a controller type of game? Is it a mouse and keyboard type of game? Is it a story-based title? Is it something that requires very fast reactivity in a competitive setting? All that stuff's going to matter before I start trying to put numbers up that are acceptable. So right here, I do find this acceptable. So let's just keep going and see what we can expect if we go all the way up on that to high on our preset down here. Again, this is just going through the high preset, the high regular preset, and then introducing the ray tracing high on top of that. So we knocked down from our fake ultra to like what the game kind of like comes with out of the box. So this is just all high, nothing ultra, and that gives us 49, 48. PCL's around 63 milliseconds. And yeah, I mean, this is starting to need a little bit of help as far as frame generation potentially, but it does have a nice flat frame time graph. That's the main thing. Everything's very stable. So that's, something very, very important to call out, that I would rather have a little bit lower FPS and a stable title than something that might run a little, more performant, but has issues with stability. So, I do kind of consider that, something to think about too. So right here at 39 FPS, obviously we're kind of hitting a wall. Come down here, let's go one more down to see just how bad the ultra ray tracing would be. So this brings in all of the things. This is transparency, path tracing, ray tracing, everything completely to the wall. And then everything up here is just accordance to what this high preset does. So obviously some things aren't completely maxed out. So this again is still on performance DLSS. That gives us about 39, 38 FPS. Again, this is the best lighting system that the game offers. So we are definitely going to need some help here. So 41, 42, 40 FPS, that's a bit low. So, you know, we could frame generate from here. You know, it would be, you know, not the most perfect situation. But, you know, again, a game like this, you don't need a perfect situation. You just need something that's playable and that you can enjoy the story through. So let's go on over here and see what all we can do to help this out. So before I bring in frame generation, I just want to see what we need to do over here to kind of get this path tracing to work in a way that might give us something to frame generate from. So if you want to go down to medium, you can certainly do that and leave your path tracing and everything set to high down here. And let's see what that does for us. I'm not expecting a miracle, but it might bring it up a little bit enough to justify path tracing. Doesn't look like it's really doing too much. Honestly, the path tracing is such a heavy burden that adjusting settings, you might as well just go all the way to the top and then adjust your path tracing according to the performance that you're looking for. You know, just kind of an experiment right here. I'm just kind of going through the settings so you guys can get the most information that you know, that I can provide. So right here we're at 41 FPS. So really the best thing to probably do is just to set our expectations a little bit lower. I'm going to go down to that low preset and leave all the path tracing stuff on. And I mean, you can see it only gave us a little bit more frames. I mean, there's parts that are even lower. You know, it's just not, it's not worth giving up your, you know, overall image quality just to justify maxing out your path tracing. I think this title runs the best with just ray tracing all the way out, with everything set to the ultra setting as far as here goes, our fake ultra. So I would probably play it exactly like this. I would just go ahead and max out all of my actual game quality here. See our screen space, ambient occlusion has been grayed out because we have path tracing enabled. So I would probably just come back down here and enable ray tracing low, and then potentially look at messing with some of this, just depending on how this runs. But this is everything maxed out on ultra, and then your ray tracing is set to basically the highest level of ray tracing, if that makes sense. So let's come in here and see how this runs, just to kind of regroup and reconfigure ourselves here. So I would probably run it like this with a little bit of frame gen and call it a day, because I think that that would be perfectly acceptable considering the type of title this is. And it gives you, you know, some really nice lighting that isn't going to just like totally microwave your card. I mean, that, you know, that's not fun to play a title like that, you know, at that level at least. So we can come in here and just do that. So let's do the thing I just suggested here. Let's just do a 2x. That's all we're going to need. I don't like to use any more frame gen than I need. So everything here is just maxed all the way out except for path tracing. And that is going to give you 100 FPS, a PCL of 58 milliseconds, which is completely acceptable on a controller especially. 88 FPS. Yeah, I mean, this is a really good way to play it. Now, this is on 4K. This is probably an entry-level 4K card for a game like this, for something that's, you know, very graphically demanding. But you could go down to a 1440p resolution and get a lot better performance. It's going to run tremendously better on 1440p. So what I want to do now is just come in here and just kind of close out with, you know, kind of a 1440p setting that I would probably do. I would like to probably keep it on balanced. Let's go with frame gen off for now. Everything all the way set to ultra, that's fine. I'm going to go all the way up on my ray tracing because I'm going to come in here and reduce the display resolution. I need to do a few things first and then I'll be right back. All right, so we are back in it now and we have everything set to 1440p. It's on the balanced preset right here. And everything is, again, completely maxed out. We're not going to use any frame generation just because I would like to get a baseline for something that, you know, was sort of on the edge of playable for 4K is now completely and totally acceptable on 1440p. So if you are considering this card and you're looking at different resolutions, you know, I do consider the 5070 Ti a very powerful card. For 1440p, it's absolutely probably as high as I would recommend going if that's the resolution you prefer to game at. It can do 4K in a lot of games, don't get me wrong. Games like this that are very taxing, you know, you have to set your expectations accordingly for 4K if that's something you're interested in exploring. Not really sure why my 5070 Ti is reporting 0 watts, but yeah, let's just ignore that. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, we are looking like 54, 52 FPS here. So we can absolutely come in here and do a number of things. We could go to that performance upscaling. We could try that out, and that will definitely take care of things. That gets us well over 60, I'm sure. So let's give it a little bit to kick in. Yeah, so I say well over, not really. 62 is not well over 60, but it's doing its best here. We're close to 70. That's not bad. All right, so right here you could just do a performance upscale, completely have everything all the way maxed out to the wall, and have no issues whatsoever playing this game if you just sacrifice the 4K and go down to 1440p. I'm going to close out with a little frame gen just to kind of sweeten it up a little bit. So let's just go up to 2K. That's really all you need. But yeah, we have, or not 2K, 2X. Yeah, we have 54 milliseconds on our PCL, more than acceptable. 120 frames per second here, give or take. And this is, again, completely maxed out to the wall. One of the hardest games to play in a long time. So, yeah, if I were you, I would set my expectations for 4K. But, you know, if you are on 1440p, you're good to go. This is a very, very doable game on this hardware. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again for 1,000 subs. I really appreciate it. If you got something out of this, please consider adding to the pile. 1,000 subs was a great milestone, but we have a lot further to go. So if you want to be part of that, jump in there and click the sub button and make sure you don't miss any of my videos. And with all that out of the way, I will see you guys in the very next video. Peace.